Hey, what's up YouTube? It's your boy Love and Liberty, here as always to get this daily work in. While I get set up and get going about what I want to talk about, which is why this is all so cringe and why these people defend PDFs, okay? Why these men, lash out at men who call it out, who shine a light on it, why they're so insecure, triggered, and fragile because they betray their own philosophy. But we're going to play some of this I've Had It podcast interview with Jen Psaki. We're going to comment and talk together, me and you, a little bit about what they're saying. I want to hear what you think about what they're saying. Keep it policy based, don't make it personal. But let me hear what you think about the policies they're discussing, and let's talk about it together. I'm going to get this work in. Hope you're doing something productive wherever you're at today, or hope you're just otherwise having a good day. With that being said, guys, let's go ahead and get into it, and we'll get this work, and then we'll be talking, with the chat and talking about why this MAGA party defends PDFs as we go along.
Patriots, gay triots, they triots, black triots, brown triots, and the people who don't support them can fuck off! Fuck off, that's right. You guys, it is a big time in the big city. We have a big time guest, Jen Psaki with MSNBC, but I think it's going to be MS Now.
It is.
I think you should do
jazz hands. Jazz hands.
I think.
All right, with these curls right here, we're starting off with 80 pounds. That's 40 pounds in each hand.
Yeah, start there. That's exactly.
Yes.
We welcome you, even if you don't like it yet. Please come like it.
I know. I'm excited about it, though.
I am too.
The
I'm
rebrand.
very excited.
I think it's an opportunity for, a feeling of at least getting away from all the capitulators.
It's funny you say that. I've been thinking about how it feels like a healthy divorce.
Right.
When you look at the other side and you're like, I'm ready to move out now, and I'm ready to move into our space. And I'm really excited about the reporters who are coming to MS Now, who are already with us. I mean, people who have, Carol and Ken have broken, I don't know, it feels like a story every day.
Yes.
And they're part of what we're going to be doing. And a lot of what we do is storytell and not bullshit and just tell people what's happening. And that's exciting to be a part of and to be our own world of it.
I've been on CNN, and then I was on the MSNBC weekend. And people ask me what the difference is. And the difference is this. When you're on CNN, you have to walk in and have regressive conversations. You have to argue about decided facts and people saying that, no, that isn't a fact. This is the truth. And when I was on MSNBC, I was on with, who, by the way, is so attractive in person, Eamon. Yeah.
You know, his wife is like a model, but
yeah,
yes,
follow
he's
him
very
on
attractive.
Instagram. They are gorgeous.
And he's so nice. It's just
so
too
nice.
much.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
And smart, all the things.
But I was on his show, and it was so
On these lateral raises right here, we're doing 50 pounds. So 25 in each hand.
refreshing because the facts are just assumed, and then you can get into the nuance of conversation, policy, grievances, whatever. But on other networks, it's like, this is so regressive that we're debating a fact.
Let's not debate the sky's blue. The sky's blue, right? And I don't think we have to have another side of, was it the pros and cons of Letitia James being indicted, right? There are no pros. There are many cons. Here are all the things with it. That is one of the things I so appreciate. And I remember when I started, I can't remember, it may have been Ari Melber actually, who has done a lot of interesting reporting on criminal justice reform and things. And he said to me, one of the things that's really exciting is that you can decide to do an 8-minute package on criminal justice reform and talk to people who are experts. And you don't have to feel like you have to present 100 sides of the issue. You're trying to inform the audience with information and nuance and a depth of details that you don't have the luxury of doing even on a range of networks and a range of mediums right now.
Well, what have you had it with? That's the number one thing we got to talk about.
I love this. I've had it with so many things. Right now, first of all, I'm just going to start with a political one because here we are. I have had it with Little Mike Johnson and taller John Thune. Don't forget to have had it with him, who pretend like they are powerless observers of the shutdown of anything you can do in Washington. Little Mike Johnson is second in line to the presidency. He's the most powerful person in Congress. There are many things you can do to end the shutdown.
Yeah.
All right, so these tricep extensions, we're doing with 25 pounds.
Military troops to make sure people have healthcare subsidies. And John Thune is walking around. He's a new addition to my I've Had It group. Is walking around like, I don't know.
We've neglected him.
We have neglected him. Please add him.
I have totally neglected him because his silence is really causing a lot of problems.
Yeah, and he behaves as if, I guess we'll see what happens. You're the leader of the Senate.
Have you ever seen this many emasculated men that are so terrified of so many things in your life? Can you imagine being a conservative and navigating a remote control? Jimmy Kimmel, Stephen Colbert, Bad Bunny, a Cracker Barrel commercial, a drag queen, really? a gay person, a black person, Spanish-speaking person. I mean, these people are so terrified all the time, yet they want to talk about
triggered those snowflakes, you know what I'm saying?
And it's like, bitch, please.
Bitch, please. That's the tell.
Little dick energy on steroids.
It's really, that is such a, because I feel like Donald Trump himself, just to go back to that guy, has like remember that game Battleship we used to play?
Yes, I loved it.
He's got a game of Battleship and kind of little military figures that he's like moving around. And it would be funny, except it's not funny.
It's so
because
dangerous.
it's a horror show. But
right.
That is what this is about. This is like, I am weak and small, so I'm going to play Battleship over here, and I'm going to tell the military what they're going to do, and I'm going to send them into cities because I need to feel bigger.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I get Pete Hegseth, who's a complete fucking moron, completely not qualified to do what he's doing, and he's running the battleship, and that scares me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for national security, everything else, I feel like our enemies are looking, saying, these bozos couldn't stop a clock. So,
our enemies are taking the dub. Oh, I mean, this is
fantastic.
This is
for
a
them.
W for all. I mean, this is. They don't have to do anything.
No.
China, Russia, they can just sit back and go, have at it.
This is such a good point because I spent a couple years with the State Department, and when you have foreign leaders come visit, and they do this in other capitals too, you get all this briefing materials of what is the coverage of them in their countries, what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, what are their vulnerabilities. Imagine what that packet of information looks like for a briefing when somebody's going to meet with Trump. It's like, flatter him.
Flatter him.
Say he's physically looking good and his hands are big.
Good golfer.
Yeah, he's a great golfer. And what else do you say about him? And then maybe you'll get what you want from him. I mean, that's the kind of briefing they're getting. And I, Jay Johnson, who's the former Secretary of Homeland Security, made this point on my show last night, which is, it's like the United States usually, when you're traveling with a Secretary of State or a Secretary of Defense or the President, we're imperfect, we have a long history of being imperfect. But you usually go to other countries and you say, if you don't improve your human rights, if you don't treat the media with respect, if you don't treat freedom of speech and expression with respect, we're going to have a conversation about the kind
this is 90 pounds, 45 in each
money
hand.
we provide to you, right? You have these conversations. Now, how do we go into other countries and have conversations about how they treat the media, how they treat freedom of expression, how they treat the right to gather, all of these issues that we are now grappling with in our own country?
What about the inverse of that? What about, we talk a lot about corporate capitulation, university capitulation, all of the Republican Congress the national security guys. But what about our allies? Are they capitulating in a sense by going along when they meet with the United States of America, like Jay Carney was in the Oval? And while they are piling on effusive praise to this malignant narcissist dictator, Trump, we're not on the verge of an authoritarian takeover. We're right in the middle of it. Are our allies capitulating by kissing his ass and not saying, we're not going to do deals with you if you are denying people due process. You are on human rights watch lists.
Right.
Our relationship is different. So what do you think, having been at the State Department, about that look at it? I mean, it's very Neville Chamberlain-esque, in my opinion, of our allies to go along with this.
Yeah, and you kind of want that Hugh Grant moment. Remember that Hugh Grant moment where he says, we are not a small country, we are whatever he says. I don't know yet. And I think they're making this calculation clearly in their own strategy meetings, some of them. Just go flatter him and it will help us get what we want, right? Maybe we can get him back on board with being on the right side of the war in Ukraine, which is a crazy thing, but that's
Right.
where we are. Maybe it will help him, it will help push him back from pushing all these tariffs. That hasn't worked yet in most regards, but I think they're calculating if we can just flatter him a little bit, we'll treat him like they treat him like a child a bit, right? Does that work? I don't think we know yet, but that seems to be the calculation.
Well, and people in his administration have really, like, J.D. Vance, who we refer to as Lil Smokey, short for Smokey Eye Sociopath. So Lil Smokey has said
It is a
some...
very smoky eye.
He said some very disparaging things about Europe. And, of course, Elon Musk is with that far-right German party, and then he's meddling in UK politics. And it feels like there is this desire from dark forces. This is my theory, and you can tell me what you think about it. Like, Trump has the cult, he keeps it together. Our allies and adversaries know how to flatter him, but also the people within the White House know how to flatter him. What are his number one things? Are his decorating and arts and crafts projects. He's building an arch. We've seen the Oval Office. He's got his ballroom. He's selling watches. He has his online thrift shop.
Watches.
The
Yeah.
watches.
And all of the people that work for him, like particularly when you get to Stephen Miller and then J.D. Vance, and then you just peel back who they're associated with. People that would never get into politics, that think they're better than that, like I'm talking Peter Thiel and other oligarchs. And I feel like they are really trying to concentrate the power in the executive because biology is going to catch up with Trump. None of these guys can win a general election. The cult will completely fall apart. So they have to consolidate in the executive, go full tilt authoritarian so that Lil Smokey can come in and execute this crazy plan that these weirdos, Peter Thiel and this guy named Curtis Yarvin have, that they have decided we no longer should have a democracy.
I think the little Manchurian candidate, J.D. Vance, wants to be president more than anything else.
Yeah.
I always wonder what's going on in the mind of his wife. Like, are you
Agreed.
okay? Please blink 4 times.
Yes.
We'll come over here. We'll save you. And that he's willing to do anything to get there. And that your whole iteration you just outlined, I mean, he's scarier in certain
Agreed.
ways.
He's smarter.
In some ways. And he's young.
Yeah.
And ambitious.
And ambitious. And agile in the sense that he is a chameleon who makes
Right.
himself into whatever he thinks the audience wants to hear from him. Now, what's also true though is J.D. Vance is not, he's in some ways goodish on paper if you like what he believes in, I don't know. But I don't know that he can take the whole movement with him.
No
No
way.
way.
I don't
No.
think so either.
There's no riz.
It's got no riz, right?
Right.
And he just is a little odd. And so
Totally.
Trump's odd in a different way. So I'm skeptical of that. So yeah, he's got to. I mean, everything going on right now, and I think we have to be very clear-eyed about this, is about trying to manipulate the public around elections. And so even pre-J.D. Vance ascension or attempt for J.D. Vance to ascend, we're looking at the midterm elections next year. And J.B. Pritzker's called this out, Gavin Newsom has called this out. These troops in the streets, these attempts to manipulate the elections by doing these middle of the process redistricting. This is all about making it harder to participate in the process, making it harder for Democrats and for people who want to support these candidates, and even just people who want to check on the power of Trump to participate. That's what this is all about. So that's just the lead up to taking greater and greater and greater control. And even taking the military underneath his wing, taking the press, which they're completely reshaping the whole
Yes.
press room and who covers the president. All of this is consolidation of power and consolidation of information to the public. And that's what it's about, is maintaining power.
And then you have Fox News that's got all the boomers that don't get on social media. Okay, so here's my, we've been talking about this. The press corps that goes to those ridiculous propagandist press secretary, which I want to get to, but this is on this point. is there going to be a time that the press says, we're not doing this, we are not covering this president or this press secretary, because all they do is lie? And so you can have Peter Doocy, you can have, whoever the podcaster of the day is, Benny Johnson, can get in there and just go for it. Is that something we can see? Because I don't see another avenue to getting the truth out unless there's like some type of pushback from the press, which we're seeing the Pentagon press do more than I've seen the White House press do.
It's a very good question. Here's the challenge of that. If I would say Peter Doocy, bless his heart, is not as bad as Benny Johnson. This is what we're living in. Like the rank order of options. Is that if the Associated Press and the Washington Post and the New York Times and ABC News say, you know what, we're walking out of this White House briefing room. That's the best thing that could ever happen to Donald Trump and Caroline Leavitt, because that's what they're trying to reshape without saying they're doing it. And in that room, and this is what I find to be so challenging, is the things that are happening behind the scenes that you can't always see or know unless you've lived it. I mean, I think this is true in law firms and the Department of Justice and places too, is that in that briefing room,
Mom, look at all these great docs I found.
All right, y'all, so all this on commercial, and we're getting ready for our last set of the first round of exercises. Why does MAGA, again, all this alpha beta stuff, this is a myth, it's cringe, but they love it. They think it's important. So we're addressing it on their terms. Why do these people who want to talk about how alpha they are support PDFs? Okay? How does that happen? We know it's not natural. Okay? So it's learned behavior, it's taught, it's indoctrinated, it's herd mentality, it's groupthink. You already know all this. Okay? But in the same way, if these cringe PDF supporting people were showing up in your yard every day, in your neighborhood every day, spreading garbage around everywhere, and then yelling at people who try to pick it up, are you going to let them win? You going to let them trash your neighborhood? These people? No. So that's why all of a sudden we have to start speaking out, we have to start participating, because they're spreading garbage around everywhere and telling us they're masculine while they support the abusers of women, okay? Their party refuses to release the EPSTEIN files. They've shut the government down to protect PDFs. That's the Republicans, that's MAGA. To protect weak, amoral, having no moral, beta males, as they define beta. Again, this is all a myth. It's not based on real science. It's cringe, but these weirdos believe it, okay? So we take it on their terms and say, by your terms, you're protecting the most beta males on earth. You are submitting to beta males. How are you not below a beta male if you're submitting to a beta male? Again, it's all made up, it's fake science, it's a myth, but they believe it's true. So we're talking about it on their terms. These people are slaves to their ideology. Okay? Their ideology, like a high school football rivalry, blinds them. You know, when you're cheering for your high school football team, you're not thinking which team has the most moral character, which team has the best human beings on it, which team has worked the hardest. You're cheering for your high school, period. Nothing else matters. You're a slave to that ideology. It's not going to break. Nothing is going to convince you otherwise. That's who these people are. Their ideology is based on a short-sighted greed. Okay? It's greed in a lot of different ways we'll touch on. But these people are greedy to the point of lacking empathy, and many of them are often sociopaths. People who don't feel any type of pain or empathy when other people suffer. These people who believe this are spineless, they're weak, they're fearful, and they're simps to beta males. Okay? The people, this is all a myth, it's all cringe, but they believe it. And by their own beliefs, they don't measure up. By their own beliefs, they protect PDFs first. They shut down the government to prevent releasing the Epstein files. We see in all of their behavior insecurity. Again, weakness on every level. Emotional weakness, physical weakness, moral weakness, cowardice, submissive. Okay, look at Mike Johnson and Lindsey Graham. That's who represents these people. Look at Donald Trump when he gets around Vladimir Putin face to face. I am a nobody, and I would not submit to any of these weak, ridiculous men. It would be a joke to be in any of their presence. Okay, these are not real men. I don't know how they've ended up representing you. I don't know how, they don't represent me. You know, and if I point at weak men in the Democratic Party, it's weak for a different reason. Okay? Not everybody can be strong. But if you have the strength to be empathetic, to be reasonable towards your fellow man, to understand that one man having the same amount of wealth as 52% of the population is probably not a good idea, then we should probably be like every other first world country on earth and guarantee all of our citizens health care, things like that. Then I don't care if you're weak. But if you're weak in every way and you want to stomp down on people, that's when we're going to have a problem. Okay? The herd mentality. These people, calling them a herd mentality is a joke at this point. They literally defend the President of the United States posting AI videos of his McDonald's made self getting in a fighter jet with a crown on his head and dropping feces on American people, exercising their First Amendment right to protest. Largest protests in United States history, I might add. Okay? The herd mentality to... Caroline Leavitt said that the protesters were terrorists, violent criminals. What else did she call us? I'm a terrorist and a violent criminal. Did you watch my video from the No Kings protest? It was children to grandmothers and everyone in between. Okay? These people are so insecure and so weak and have such deep-seated insecurity because they know they only make up about 33% of the United States population. We could get into that. These people are not the majority of the country. We could talk about that later. I'm going to get back to work here and let the video keep playing, but I did just want to talk about the reason that these people defend PDFs is because they're slaves to their ideology, which is always some form of greed, some form of fear. Greed comes from fear. They're spineless, they're weak, they're fearful, they simp for beta males, they submit, they sacrifice their integrity to the weakest men alive. And they elect the weakest and most disgusting submissive men alive to lead them. They're dishonest. They don't have integrity because, again, they've sacrificed it to sociopathic beta males. And they're sociopathic, which means they don't feel empathy for other people. They're brainwashed, me-focused, short-sighted nihilists. Okay, we can talk about any of that. But that is basically why you can have people who pretend that they're masculine and do everything they can to support PDFs. No real man has ever supported a PDF, okay? Anybody who does is not a man, and they have to get their man card back by rebuilding their integrity.
Slowly but surely taking over more and more of the questions in the briefing, right? And having a greater and greater presence in these press pools where you have a smaller group of reporters in the Oval Office. And sometimes Trump and a foreign leader will take 45 minutes of questions. And it's Benny Johnson and little Benny Johnson, whoever that may be. And yes, maybe there's one or two other real reporters, but the problem is they're taking up so much real estate. So if all these other reporters leave, that's all the real estate. And then you know what we have? We have what the Kremlin press corps is.
Right.
And that's the challenge. So if
That's
you're
what they
these
want.
reporters, I don't know what the answer is and what you do. There's still very smart people in there. They're just getting overtaken in terms of space and real estate by people the White House selects to say things like, Donald Trump looks so good in his workout. What is his workout? That was literally a question one day.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
When has he ever worked out? Ever?
Okay, so I'm going to tell you what a big nerd I am.
We're all nerds. It's a safe place.
Yeah. So I get on social media, and then when I would get home after work, I would watch your press conferences when you
Oh
worked
my
for
God,
Biden.
God bless you. Thank you.
Just to see, like, okay, what's the real story before I got into the meat of it. Because I was like, okay, what's the White House saying? Because I'm getting all this disruption. And I think that it's precious for the United States to have a representative of the president to come out and talk about policy. You had a stack of books this tall. I couldn't even believe all the crap you went through. Now I am enraged every time I see Caroline Levitt, who prays before she goes out there and lies her fat ass off. So she goes out there and lies, and it's propaganda after propaganda. Is there no check on that? Like, is there no, like, I guess there's no law that the press secretary has to be honest, but like when she acts like, I can't even believe you would insinuate Donald Trump would make money off of the presidency as the Trump watches are going. So is there no like rules or anything? I guess they don't care about words, but does that break your heart to see what it's been turned
All right,
into?
it's 80
It does.
pounds,
and I say
40
this
in
as
each hand,
honestly, I
80
worked in
pounds.
democratic politics for 20-something years. I'm not shy about my views. But even for people who, like Dana Perino, or dare I say even Sean Spicer, I don't know if I should use him as an example, it's a very different briefing room now than it was then. Dana Perino is probably a better example of this, right? I disagree with Bush on a bazillion things, right? But you had to go in there and answer questions from the same type of reporters, and often the same reporters I had to answer questions from. And this is a part of how the United States is unique as a democracy, is that you do have a person who goes out there at the White House and answers questions, even on days, and believe me, there are some days where you before you walk out into that room, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah,
There's no information. That's not the reporter's fault.
Yeah.
It's like, there's nothing I can offer, and they're gonna just yell at me for 45 minutes. It's sad because there aren't so many people who've ever done that job, and what it feels like, it is diminishing the job. It is diminishing the role of the press secretary, the honor of being in that job, which is speaking on behalf of the United States of America, which sometimes it's edgy, a lot of times it's not. Sometimes it's, people think it's boring, but it's important, and this is really changing what it is and what the expectations are around it. And that is sad for the White House, it's sad for the institution, it's sad for anyone who's had that job, and it really takes it away as something that the American people can rely on as at least a source of information.
This episode of I've Had It is brought to you by Booking.com. Pups,
Republicans in general, is they are they are
I don't know, I'm not sure.
They are constantly promoting what they're doing. And Biden, in my opinion, he knew how to govern, loads of experience, knew how to reach across the aisle, knew how to get shit done, but there wasn't a lot of marketing that accompanied the successes that he had. And because everything has changed, and it's the really weird thing being a Democrat, because like when Obama was in office, we had all the young techie people and kind of controlled social media. Well, that narrative has really switched. And now I feel like we're the conservative party, not in the sense of our values, but in the sense that people are not progressing forward within the Democratic Party. They are sticking to the status quo, like I've never seen the party do. So in that regard, if we get to midterms, and if we ever get a Democratic president, having been the press secretary, what do you think, and now what the American public is used to, obviously honesty is first, but don't you think the Dems need to razzle dazzle and perma-campaign their presidency, because now the public is primed for that? We can't just go back to, well, the day the president did, I'm not saying you did that, but it's going to have to be more entertaining, would you not agree?
Totally. I mean, Democrats, God bless their hearts, some are better than others, are holding on to, like, remember the running CD Discman?
Yes.
But not in a cool, vintage, ironic way, right?
Yeah.
It's still, you know, it's interesting. When I started my job as the press secretary, well, actually, I'll go back a little before that. When Donald Trump won the first time, and we all thought Hillary Clinton was going to win, and we had binders ready for the people we knew who were working for Hillary Clinton, because I was Obama's communications director, and I was there at the time. We would have suggested them, they could have done what they wanted, to change all sorts of things about the briefing room, the way engagement with the press works, because it's been archaic for a very long time. And there's not enough thought put into what the thought should really be about is how do you reach the broad public out there that doesn't press refresh on whitehouse.gov. And that's key. That should be the guide, because the American public is your constituency. And the briefing room is only a part of it, of course. I know you're not just asking about that, but I think it's about rethinking the modes of communication, how you use your own platforms.
Right.
I love Joe Biden extremely deeply, which
Yes.
I know I don't have to say to both of you. He was never going to be a natural TikTok person, right? And there were reasons we didn't have TikTok because of national security concerns. Frankly, I think everybody running for president and who want to be leaders should have TikTok, or whatever the new iteration of it is. It's always evolving, and should really think about not, do I feel good because my written piece was in the Washington Post, which, by the way, nobody reads.
I also think that all departments of government should have social media.
100%.
I think that in order to, I think you've got to govern smart, govern honestly, and govern with style, and govern with an entertainment lens as well, because that is what our culture has become. Good, bad, or indifferent, you have to evolve to it. And the problem with Democrats, and the reason why I keep saying the word conservative, and I think I want to say more preservative.
Yeah.
They want to preserve these systems, is that shockingly, the conservatives that I thought were just crusty old white people have morphed into this young group of misogynists that really know how to navigate social media and the media landscape. And then we have the Democrats who are preserving, and the biggest problem for Democrats for me right now and in the past is we operate under what I call assumption politics. We assume everybody's going to do the right
That's such
thing.
a good way of describing
We
it.
assume nobody's going to vote for Trump.
We're so hopeful.
We assume that people know that Caroline Levitt is lying. We assume that everybody knows that Antifa is not real. It is an idea. We assume these things. And in that assumption comes hubris, to where then you cannot plainly speak to constituents. And this is the problem. When Democrats don't do this, really bad actors fill the void. And right now, Marjorie Taylor Greene is filling that void. She is seeing the curtains on Kanks. That's what we call Trump, short for Kankles.
I'm tracking. I'm a listener.
She sees the curtains on Kanks, and she is teeing up, and she's talking about healthcare. She's talking about America seems to have Israel first policies. Why do they have health care? Why do they have higher education and we don't? Well, we live in Oklahoma. And so that kind of shit, that is going to hit hard. And then Democrats are exploring more nuances about those issues. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, as she does all this, she was on CNN last night spitting facts, sounded like a normal fucking person. And then I went to her Twitter, and last night, just because she has to pacify the crazies, she's like, by the way, Antifa was at January 6th.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. I mean, like, within a 2 hour
It's like a
span.
different universe.
But the point is, those vacuums get filled by these very crafty, manipulative grifters on the right. Benny Johnson, Marjorie Taylor Greene, J.D. Vance, Little Smokey. I mean, they fill these vacuums that Democrats don't fill.
I 1,000% agree. And I think part of it, this is just a small part of it, but the preservation is such a good way of describing it. There's still this, what is presidential? What is governmental? What does a senator do? Get the fuck out of here. Who cares? Right. Like,
hate
it doesn't
Rose.
matter. You're trying to
I
reach
hate 'em.
people. And guess what? Most people are not sitting on their couch wearing a suit watching you. So it's like, people just have to become a little bit more relaxed.
Woo.
Let go of the talking points, which it's funny because in part of my transition from being a communications person to being on television is we would have officials on, and I would finish an interview and I'd say, we can't have that person on again. They like literally read a list of talking points, right? And there is a letting go and of being a little freer and not being so preservationist with how you talk about things, the words you use to talk about things. Just talk like a human being with a heart. That's it. You know, that's what Democrats care about. Right now, the government shutdown, they want to protect healthcare. That's it. They want to make sure you're not paying more for healthcare. That's the whole thing.
They want to release the Epstein
just
files.
talk about it like a human being. Stop being so
MAGA.
overly formalized.
Protecting
and strict
PDFs.
yourself
It's
about
a,
it.
it's a really
Shut
good
down the
example. We
government.
recently had Cory Booker on, and I
protect
asked him, do you think
PDFs.
Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal? And he wouldn't answer it. And he filibustered after every answer. And after the interview, I thought,
The ICC thinks he is. You could just say
right,
that.
I said that
We
to
did.
him. But I thought, would Donald Trump ever fucking blink about just saying it?
No.
He would never fucking blink. And we're playing two different games here. We
Yeah.
have these preservationist Democrats that are preserving the status quo, which left us to this moment. And let me just say, I like Cory Booker. His heart's in the right place. He's a fabulous senator. He's a good senator. He's a good voice for the Democratic Party. But we're at the stage in this authoritarian takeover where it's like, stop with the status quo. Stop with your donors. It has left all of us vulnerable. Everybody's hurting. The first Democrat that steps up, whether it's Hakeem Booker, and says, I'm not taking AIPAC anymore. I'm rolling up my
Yep.
sleeves. I'm going to fight for this country. Everybody would embrace and love that person immediately. You see it with like the Graham Plattner that's running. You see it with Zoran Mamdani here. People, that's what they liked about Trump. They thought, mistakenly, well, he's a billionaire. He can't get bought. Nobody can own him. I mean, but that's what he projected. And so I just am really worried about a lot of the Democrats still playing like, it feels like conservative politics now. The Democratic Party, the establishment feels conservative to me. And so now I'm like I find myself going more left, like more leftist, because the Democratic Party, they just want to preserve all of the assumption politics and the bullshit answers. Of course, Benjamin Netanyahu's a war criminal. Fucking say it. For God's sake, Cory. You know, it just drove me crazy.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I think some of it is just people in comfort in their own skin. I think Cory Booker is very comfortable in his own skin. And
Totally.
very good.
Yes.
And, and that's
And he's
a good
super
example.
likable.
He's super likable.
And I think he's a good senator. I do.
Very much. But sometimes I think it's a thinking too much about what you think,
Agreed.
right? And Barack Obama, I worked for him for 10 years. He used to say, not perfect, okay, but he was a pretty good president.
No,
and he
really
was
good. Yeah.
And he used to say, and he would say, give this advice now, I think, to people running for office. Start with what you think, right? Don't start with what the polling says. Don't start with what the talking points say that are given to you by the DNC or wherever it is. First of all, no offense to the DNC, burn the talking points in the ground, you know?
Right.
Start with what is your view? Personally, you're a leader, you're educated, you're informed, and just say that. And it sounds simple, but a lot of people don't do that. Graham Plattner is very interesting because I think he just says what he thinks. And people can't figure out him because they're like, how can he be somebody who says he can speak to Trump voters, but he also has these views? And I'm like, he just says what he thinks. Most people are not checking boxes on one particular line of views, right? Nobody you talk to at the bus stop or the hardware store is like, oh yeah, I meet all of those requirements.
Right.
They might have views that are slightly contradictory because that's human beings. And it's like simple advice, but to anyone who may run for president, all 147 of you, I hope you just start. Now's the time to sit in a room with people you trust and say, what do you think about this?
Yeah.
What do you think about Israel? What do you think about Ukraine? What do you think about any range of issues,
Right.
trans rights, all these things you're going to be asked about? What do you think? Then figure out how to talk about it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that the reason that people like Trump is because he comes across as this plain-spoken person. And then I think people in America worship capitalism and worship wealth. But when you get to like the Graham Plattners, and even AOC has had triple Trumpers that also voted for her. Zoran is getting triple Trumpers that are also voting for him. I guarantee you Plattner will. I think what all of that is a pushback on corporate politicians. And when you get to Republicans and a lot of the Democrats that take a lot of corporate donations, for the person that gets up, goes and works, suffers to pay their health insurance, watches Wheel of Fortune, maybe hits Jesse Waters, maybe watches some porn, goes to sleep, rinse, repeat every day, they're looking for somebody who isn't beholden. I don't know that they particularly know how to articulate exactly what that is, but you can feel and see authenticity and you know it. And so when a politician cannot answer a yes or no question, like, do you think Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal?
Yes.
When he can't answer it, then you know he definitely thinks he's a war criminal. But he's caught up somewhere and compromised somewhere that he can't say it. And then you sniff that out. And then the stereotype all politicians are the same, whether they're MAGA or liberal, then they all get chunked into that. And I think people on the coast, and I think people in the Democratic Party always, like, well, the polling shows this, and then the polling shows that. That's what they don't get. They don't know how to just speak to people. It's too controlled. The talking points are so controlled, and people sniff it out.
It's really, I know you didn't ask me for another, I've had it, but I'm just gonna offer
No,
another.
we
I've
need
had it.
more. I need
Well,
more.
no, I mean, I've had it with the phrase kitchen table issues. First of all,
Yes.
who says that? No one.
Rahm Emanuel is the only person I know that consistently says that, and I got in a huge fight with him.
Well, I mean, there are more than just Rahm Emanuel who says that, but it's like, it sounds like it was a phrase created in a lab. I'm sure I've slipped into that word phrasing because it's like everywhere. But nobody in any community in the country sits around and says, I wish my person I'm running for office would talk about kitchen table issues. Issues we speak about at the kitchen table. It's like, what is that? But
I agree with you. That's such a good habit.
that is in like every set of talking points that's anywhere. It's like, what is a kitchen table issue? Or it's like, there's lots of different iterations of economic populism. It's like nobody is sitting anywhere saying like, I wish somebody running would be like, I'm more economic populist.
Here's the kitchen table issues. God, that senator is so full of shit. I wish they would just speak the truth. God, did they not get it? Of course they don't. That's more the kitchen table issues.
Yeah.
It's not like people are sitting around the kitchen table and talking about, here's our punch list. The grievances that Americans have, it is all linked to the affordability crisis and the fact that wages have gone up so high for 1%, 2%ers and have stagnated. I mean, it's basically everything that fucking Bernie said.
Yes.
Back when he ran against Hillary, and I voted for Hillary, but as a person that's watched this idiot, fucking moron win twice, I go back to Bernie's message. And he was spot on. That was something that was really penetrating to all parts of people, affordability. And the way that we do capitalism in this country is simply not sustainable. It needs to be regulated. Wages need to go up. A more FDR style way to preserve capitalism with a much larger social safety net. And I just think the kitchen table issues right now are people are sniffing out bullshit. And they're sick of scripted politicians.
That's how cooked my legs are.
Totally. I mean, yeah, it's the Bernie message, and this is, I think, one of my epiphanies post-election when I was going through my own therapy session. It's like, it's like why I did even a podcast myself was like, I don't know what the hell just happened. But is that the Democratic Party was not talking to a huge swath of the public that didn't feel heard about their struggles with affordability, with the cost of everything. And it's the cost of living, it's the cost of housing, it's the cost of healthcare, it's the cost of everything. Nate Cohn, sorry, I'm going to pick on him for a second. I'm not going to apologize, I don't care. Wrote this piece the other day about how Democrats are fighting an old battle about healthcare. I'm like, I'm sorry. Is the healthcare system perfect and it's affordable for everybody? Because it's not. Right. It is. So it's just, some of this is just, it's a little bit discussions in a lab that are not about real discussions people are having, and some of the terminology used falls into that category too.
Listener, the hot book of the summer
Oops, I went the wrong way. Take two. Listen.
Next.
Does Eyeglass World have a timer?
All right. All right. While we're on commercial here for a second, let's talk about again why these men defend PDFs. Okay? MAGA, they're slaves to their ideology, which is greed and fear-based. They have a herd mentality where they're afraid to speak up for what's right in their peer groups, because in this cult, again, all of this alpha beta stuff that they believe is a myth. It's not based on real science, but they really believe it. And it's the story that they tell themselves to defend all of the evil that they do. So that's why we engage with this cringe concept of alpha and beta, is because this is the core of MAGA's philosophy. But when we engage with their mythological philosophy, we find that all of the broken, I don't even like to call them men, because this is not manly behavior to support PDFs. Okay? They're spineless. They're afraid to stand up for what's right. They would rather go along with other bullies and try to avoid any attention being put on themselves. And when they see somebody stand up for what's right, they like, herd mentality again, to gang up like some hyenas to try to take down a lion, because these people never, whether it's Donald Trump, whether it's Lindsey Graham, Mike Johnson, Pete Hegseth, Kash Patel, Stephen Miller, they all live up to what these people say is beta. Okay, is their belief system, but everybody that they submit to is a beta. Okay? Spineless, weak, fearful. Everything they do is fear-based. All of their philosophy is fear-based. Their insecurities are fear-based, and they project that fear that they have and the rage that they have for being fearful and not knowing how to alleviate that fear, how to live in courage and confidence, and they lash out at society in a herd mentality as a pack of PDF defending betas, by their own cringe definitions. Again, this is all a myth. It's not real, but they believe it, so we talk about it. And on their own terms, they're all either beta or sub-beta. They simp for betas. Okay, they simp for PDFs, to use the terminology that they love. They're dishonest. Integrity means nothing to them. It's like cheering for a high school football team, like we said earlier. Truth, integrity, honesty, the golden rule, values, love, liberty, equality, none of that matters to them. They don't have integrity. They're dishonest because all that matters to them is submitting to their beta male leaders, like Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, etc., etc. Literally the softest, weakest, most bitch-made, spineless, loser, incel individuals you could ever possibly have lead people. How do these people get into positions of power? They're supported by people who are even weaker than them. And as a herd mentality, they like a bully because they can hide behind a bully, and they have a bully in a walled garden. None of their leaders will debate real men live. None of their leaders who say that they're masculine or manly will ever show up for a live workout or hike, debate. You know, they don't want to compete. Even as gentlemen, where you shake hands after and you say, hey, all right, Pete Hegseth, I called you soft, but you just did more push-ups than me. Respect. That's how it would be. But they would never, because they would be humiliated. They're humiliated about what they believe. They're humiliated by who they are. And they're humiliated by submitting to defending PDFs. These broken people have been brainwashed, okay? Nobody is born being this pathetic, for lack of a better word. To become as pathetic and cringe as MAGA happens over a series of years, okay? It comes from having poor or unfit fathers, and I don't mean poor economically, I mean poor as in you get a C, D, or F on your test as a father, okay? You're not a good father. All of these people, if you end up here, you did not have a good father. I hate to tell you. You know, maybe your father got brainwashed too. But in the internet age where you have information at your fingertips, because before the internet, these people's bullying worked a lot better because it was in small societies, small towns. They knew the judge, they knew the police. You know, they could outcast somebody from the church and that person wasn't going to be able to get a job. They'd have to move away from their family. They'd be outcast by their community. And so this MAGA, vertical morality, distorted type of religion that evangelical Christians follow was way more powerful before the internet. So some of your parents, some of your grandparents could have been victims of not having access to more information like you do. But now in the internet age, if you end up over here, it's through some really bad free will choices. Okay? And you can change. You don't have to be on the side of evil and weakness and PDF defenders forever. You can be a man and say that you made a mistake. Like, I used to be a conservative, evangelical Christian, and I realized that I was wrong, okay? Because I had debates. I didn't run away and hide, you know, like a lot of the MAGA people want to do commenting on this channel. I welcomed the debates, but those debates changed me. I realized that I had been lied to, okay? I realized that I believe in the golden rule more than I believe in herd mentality submitting to a man who posts memes of himself as a king, who jokes about being elected for a third term, who shut down the government to protect PDFs, okay? That would never be me. And if by some way that had ever turned out to be me, I would admit that I was wrong like a man. I would disavow them and I would walk away. Okay? Because at the end of the day, people choose to engage in these myths and they know that they're not this. They know. Like, look, none of us believe you. Y'all don't even believe you. Okay? By your own definition, you're this. This is what you live up to. The best of you, by your own mythological, misapplied science, the best of MAGA are beta. The rest of them are sub-betas who kneel to betas to protect PDFs because they're greedy and they're afraid. Okay? That's all it is. Anything that we can break down about these people comes down to being greedy and afraid. And that manifests in 1,000 different ways. Okay, but when you have systems like churches, corrupt churches I should say, and the political lobbies that we have in America, the insurance industry, pharmaceutical industry, alcohol, tobacco, financial, they know that if they can grab an impressionable young man by their fear and their rage, they can sell them anything. Because we have an epidemic of young men who are afraid because they haven't been well prepared for the world. Because they're afraid that they're never going to, make it in this world. And some of them turn a little greedy because they say, I'm going to take what I can get. And those industries, including this whole industry, targets those young men, and they stoke that rage, greed, and fear. They use it to grift them. They use it to control them. They use it to funnel money to the billionaire class and divide the working class against itself, okay? So again, this is all a myth. It's all cringe, but it's what they actually believe, so we engage with it. It is why they can be brainwashed to support PDFs, to shut down our government to protect PDFs. Real men would never, okay? If this has been you, you need to get your man card back. And you can. You're not lost forever. By your own ideology, you can go from this to this by simply being confident, independent, responsible, and being strong in service to universal values. Okay? And that means standing up against your peer group, your family, whoever it is in your life who you're afraid to defend the golden rule to. Whoever it is in your life you're afraid to look at and be like, I believe in equal rights for all people. I believe that I want to treat all people the way that I want to be treated. I don't support liars. I don't support people blocking the release of PDFs. Whoever in these young men's life, old men's life, you're afraid to be a good person in front of, that's who's holding you back. That's the herd mentality, the fragile ego, the weakness, the submissiveness that ends up in a party of people shutting down the government to defend PDFs, okay? Get your man card back, stand up for what's right, be a good person, love others the way you would want yourself to be loved, treat others the way you would want yourself to be treated. Put integrity over blind loyalty. Put having a spine over pleasing your daddy. And being a good person over being popular with bad people. Okay? That's what being a man is. All of this is BS. This is misapplied science. This is a myth. It's cringe, but they believe it. But the young man's desire to be this ideal of alpha, there are noble, there are streaks of good, true, honest, integrity-based behavior when you want to be strong in service to values. When you want to be so strong that you've got your life dialed in so much you can give back to help other people. Doesn't that feel good? Doesn't it feel good if you wake up every day and you get to do exactly what you want to do, but not only that, you get to help other people too? Not tear them down? Isn't it good to be confident when you aren't also having to step on somebody else's confidence? And healthy confidence looks like this. I'm not below you, okay? I'm not below you. I'm not above you either. I'm not above you, okay? I'm not above you, but I'm not below you either, okay? That's healthy confidence. And that's what we should want everyone to strive for. If you want to call alpha that kind of confidence and that kind of strength, cool. But all of this is a myth. The reason it's cringe is because the people who say they're this are actually below this. The people who say that they're this in MAGA submit to the submissive. Okay? And why are we here? Why are we talking about it? Because if this group of broken people come into your yard, come into your park, come into your neighborhood, come into your school's playground, and they dump trash and garbage everywhere, and they leave, and they do it every day, are you just going to let it happen? Are you just going to sit back and say, well, I guess that is the way it is now? No. Not if you're strong, not if you're confident, not if you're independent, not if you're responsible. Not if you would never submit to PDF protectors. You take on the burden, okay? You didn't do anything for the trash to get dumped in your park. You didn't do anything for your school playground to get covered in muck. So why should you have to clean it up? This is life, okay? This is how it is. You clean it up, but you also seek to eliminate future occurrences. If you just clean it up and you say you block these people, you ignore these people, you pretend like they don't exist, you just go on with life as if none of this matters, that's like cleaning up the mess somebody left in your yard and pretending that it's not happening every day. Okay, when it's happening every single day, not only are you going to have to clean it up, but you're going to have to figure out what to do about it.
Car, and I want everybody watching
Oh my gosh, the other day.
to look up
He
Brendan
looks so
Carr,
old.
and I really had a moment of feeling good about myself. I'm also older than Emil Bovey, who darkness does not age you well, is my
Right.
theory there. And Stephen Miller, also him. So
What do you think?
my young friends, all of them.
What do you think's going on with Jesse Waters? I don't know if you're on TV, so you don't
I think
need
he's
to say
gay.
it. Well, obviously, but
His hair, I know his hair is good.
he has good hair. He does have good hair. It's dyed too. In person,
It's a
it's too
little,
dyed.
yeah.
But he is constantly talking about Stephen Miller's sexual
Oh
prowess.
wait, is he the one who's
Fox
saying
News.
about him being a matador?
Matador. He's the sexual matador. This week alone, he
So
got
the AOC's dying to have sex with him,
him.
that he is a man's man. It's the
It's so
gayest.
gross.
I'm an interior designer. I'm not a podcaster, so I have always had lots and lots of gay male friends. I mean,
There are no
happiest
bad women that
among
want
gay
Jesse
men.
Waters.
And
Zero.
through all of my times,
Zero.
drag shows,
That's
going to
crazy.
gay bars, hanging out with the gay guys, I have never
These people are
heard
delusional.
people talk about men, gay men. I haven't heard men talk about other men as much as I have MAGA men talk about men. There's just something
'Cause they're
so
all in the closet, man.
homosocial about the whole entire
Nobody else
movement
cares about
that
other
is
people's
so
sex
bizarre.
lives.
And then Jesse Waters, we saw him at the
It's
DNC.
people who are in the closet.
And we were so excited to be there. And we're standing like we're back. You were probably there reporting. And he comes by, and it is Pris
Sashay
I was
away.
like, oh my God.
And he thought he
We
was
go
hot.
for it. Shit.
I've never met him in person, and I don't watch his show because it's like during my show,
Right.
and also because I like to have like mental health.
Yeah.
But this is, broadly speaking, this is like a sadness I feel. If I can have some empathy for a lot of people who feel so embedded into the conservative GOP world, it's like they can't be themselves, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It's sad.
Part of
It's,
it.
typically, I'm sad about it if people are doing that in a passive way.
Yeah.
If somebody lives in a red town or red city and they were raised religiously and they live a double life but in a very passive way.
Yeah.
I have the most empathy for that
Yeah.
than I can even.
But these people are mean snakes.
These
Right.
people
And
are
living secret lives,
these
maybe.
people are during
Right.
the day. During the day, they wake up and they're demonizing gay people, demonizing trans people, demonizing drag queens, banning books, and then at night it's grinder and eating ass. I mean, you know what I mean? So fuck them. I say out all of them that do that.
There you go.
But typically, I have so much empathy. Us living in Oklahoma, I had so many gay friends that just coming out of the closet was just brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal for them. It was really painful. Their families, their friends, so much judgment. Okay, had it or hit it, TikTok dances.
Had it.
I can't dance. It's-
Me neither. And I always say when we just hired a wonderful new social media person, I'm like, I'll do anything, but nobody wants to see me dance.
Right.
Nobody wants to see me in a makeup chair particularly. You know, it's like I'm just gonna nerd out, and if people want to watch it, great. And
Yeah.
otherwise, yeah, kind of had it. Some of them are funny. I mean, some of them, when people make it funny, like they're kind of in on the joke.
Yeah, yeah,
That's funny. But yeah, I've otherwise had it.
Okay, had it or hit it, Harvard.
Had it.
Had it. Yeah.
Don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care. You have a huge endowment.
Yes.
I don't love, of course, Trump and others attacking institutions, but I've had it.
They gave up.
Sorry.
They gave up.
Yeah.
Okay, had it or hit it, Bad Bunny.
Oh, hit it.
Yeah, me too.
I'm obsessed with this story. Did you see, because we've talked about little Mike Johnson a little bit, which I
Yeah.
just always call him because
We call him Moses Mike.
Okay. Well,
Because, he said God woke him up in the middle of the night and said, hey, little guy, wake up. You're Moses. So we call him Moses.
So there's that. So someone asked him, did you see this? Someone asked him about Bad Bunny at the Super Bowl the other day, a couple days ago, and he said, I just don't think it's a good idea. And the reporter said, why not? And he said, I don't think he has a very big following. And I prefer someone like, wait for it, Lee Greenwood.
I about fell over dead when I heard
How
that.
are these people even real,
That's my
man?
favorite thing that's happened this week,
This is
perhaps.
what makes me want to get this microphone and bang
How
it
are they
over
even
Democrats'
real
head and go,
people?
It is a fucking layup. All the cool people are Democrats. All the cool celebrities
Yeah.
are Democrats. Take this thing, what Moses Mike did, and just fucking run his pipsqueak ass through the meat grinder. But it just gets lost, and I think that we're at such a disadvantage because I've been reading a lot about how organized and funded the right wing off of Fox News, the network of all of the, you've seen that diagram with the bubbles.
Yep.
That's all funded by billionaires, and they send these right-wingers, little young right-wingers, free of charge through the social media school
Yep.
that they pay for, and they get them ready. So if a Democrat messed up like that, they would disseminate it through the right wing, all of those, and this is off of Fox even, and it just would get ripped on TikTok, it would find algorithms and everything, and the Democrats just do not have that structure at all, and they've taken for granted mainstream media, which now a lot of it is so compromised. And like that Bari Weiss or whatever, she's taken over CBS, and it's just crazy.
It's so true. I mean, Kara, you know Kara Swisher? She's
Yes, I love her.
She's the best. Always says what's on her mind. It's the greatest, and her podcast is great. That Democrats don't support Democrats who are, who are progressive leaning, what have you, who have platforms, don't support each other, really, don't support each other on platforms by having each other on the different platforms, by lifting up the work of each other's platforms, so there's that. And the other piece is, I remember a couple weeks ago, months ago, it's all, the space-time continuum is a little confusing, where there was this story that was so scandalous about how kind of an outside group was paying creators to create content.
Oh yes, Chorus or something like
Whatever
that.
it is. And I'm like, it was a little clunky and messy, but I'm like, you know what? I hope there are billionaire Democratic donors who are going to pay some creators to create content, not in a way that should be repeating the DNC talking points, but should be freewheeling. You 22-year-olds who are really good at talking about healthcare in a personal way, but don't have the means to do it and expand what you're doing. Let's fund you and give you money so you can do it. I think that's a good thing, and that doesn't exist as much on the Democratic side either, and I hope it does over the coming years.
Yeah, I agree. Somebody asked us, I think we were interviewed by The Guardian, and this gal came to Oklahoma City, and she asked what we thought about that, because everybody was so mad about it, and I go, I'm not super mad about that. Like, I don't see, if they are shilling 100% for the preservation politics that drive me crazy about Democrats.
That's not effective anyway.
Right.
It's about strategy.
Right. I oppose that. But in general, like, I see every other left-leaning or pro-democracy, let me even say that, podcast or YouTube channel, not as a competitor, but as an ally. And when you think about, like, when you go to suburbs, when you see all of the chain restaurants, they're all put there together on purpose because everybody goes there to that one area to eat. Their cars just kind of start driving there. The same thing with all of us on this side. The more of us and the more we collaborate, the better. I see no one as a competitor and everyone as an ally. That's from Ben Meiselas to Hassan Piker. Like, we have to have a huge, gigantic tent. And if we all agree on everything, we would be a fucking cult.
We'd be boring.
Right. Yes.
We shouldn't agree. Lawrence O'Donnell said this to me once, because he said something once, and I just on some set, and I was like, I totally disagree with that in the moment. And then I was like, I'm sorry, I just sort of bit your head off. And he goes, no, it's good. It's fine. We disagree on all sorts of things. It's such a good point. It's funny. And also, we all I consume a lot of people's content, And when I told somebody in the hallway, one of Chris Hayes' producers, that I was coming here to do this today, and he was like, oh, you learned about them from us. And I was like, no. I was like, I am a listener outside of, I know that, you've appeared on Chris to say just show because he's right before me, so I see what's on his show. I was like, no, I knew about them before, or I don't know, maybe around the same time, but probably before. It's a funny, it's a funny thing. But yeah, it's such a good point, and I think this goes back to your preservationist point, which is such a good one. You also have to let these people be free and create content in their own style and way.
And misstep.
And
Democrats need
It's
to
fine.
embrace missteps,
Yeah.
apologize, and move on
Yeah.
the way the Republicans
Yes.
do it. And like, I always think about, what was this, Al Franken? I always think about Al
Yes.
Franken.
Doesn't it seem so silly now?
So I
So
always
silly.
think about that, and I think Democrats, whether you're a politician, work for somebody, in their office, you work for the government, or you are a podcaster or a journalist or whatever, if you misstep, own it, say you're sorry, and move the fuck
Yep.
on.
Exactly.
Unless it's just something cancelable, which those things do exist, but generally, sometimes we'll say something, because we're bullshit artists. We sit here and bullshit all day, and sometimes I'm like, I was thinking about what I said the other day, and I kind of think I was wrong. I think this, like the evolution of conversation, Democrats need to embrace.
1,000, and if you don't operate like that, you're boring.
Right.
Because you're so worried about what you're going to say all the time.
Yeah.
And how you say it. And then you sound scripted and boring.
All right, last one.
Yeah.
Had it or hit it. I've had it podcast.
Hit it, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a child of a therapist, so I can say, you guys are like a form of therapy to
All right, let's see what else we got here on the home page. Again, we're talking about how, this is all a myth. This is not real. It's super cringe, but these broken human beings really believe it. Okay? And when we just take their definitions on their own terms and we put aside that it's a myth, that it's not actual science, and we put aside how cringe it is, we find out that they're below betas, okay? Why would anybody want to submit to an ideology that makes them submit to betas as they define them, to protect PDFs? Fear and greed, okay? We've talked about it a good bit already today, but just recapping, the way that you brainwash normal people to believe in garbage and to become so evil that they support PDFs without even thinking twice is by hooking them by their fear and greed, okay? And these broken people who are consumed with fear and greed are roped in by an industry designed to target them, grift them, exploit them, and use them to further the leaders of this industry's goal. And the leaders of this industry, by this pseudoscience that's not even real, by their own definition, they are beta males to a T. Okay? This is their own definition, and they're beta males. And their followers submit to beta males. None of MAGA, you listening out there, little MAGA boys, nobody you follow, or let me put it this way, anybody that you follow that is MAGA, I'm one of the smallest channels on YouTube, and I will dog walk them in any type of competition, gentlemanly. We shake hands after whatever we do. Whether it's mental or physical, they hide. Your leaders are beta males who hide from normal dudes like me. The leaders that you follow can't even have a head-to-head IQ test with me and shake hands afterwards. Have a head-to-head video debate with somebody like me and shake hands after. Come work out with, box with, roll with, hike with, whatever you want to do, we shake hands after. We can disagree and talk about policy, but I can prove that all the men you follow are this, and you follow that, so what does that make you, okay? And it doesn't have to be that way. You can realize that you got tricked by your greed and by your fear, or one or the other. Be a man, admit that you were wrong, admit that to actually be strong is when you're so strong you can be in service to universal values. You're so strong that not only are you taken care of and prepared for whatever you need to be prepared for, but your cup overflows with giving back in some way, not stepping down and gatekeeping other people. That your confidence is the type of confidence that says to every human being on earth, whether it's Donald Trump, whether it's Barack Obama, whether it's the poorest beggar in a third world country, or Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, to be able to look at them honestly and say, I am not below you. I am not above you. I am not above you. I am not below you. Okay? Think about that. Think about that confidence is being able to look at anybody and say, I'm not above you, I'm not below you. Elon Musk, beggar in the street, everybody in between, I'm not above you, I'm not below you. Okay? This is the opposite, all of these things I'm explaining, of what they teach young men. And when you come in our community and you make a mess and you leave trash everywhere, we're going to clean it up. Okay, when you come in our community and you spread this nonsense every day, not only do we have to clean it up, but we have to now make a plan and say, okay, these people are trashing our public space, our culture, all day, every day. Cleaning it up is not enough. What are we going to do about it? Okay, and that's why we have to talk about it. That's why we have to make these videos, because these people are spreading garbage in our community. And it has been ignored by so many people for so long that it's festering. And real men would never. Okay, real men are like, we're going to clean this up and we're going to fix this. We are not going to be a country that protects PDFs. And you need to understand that MAGA, men and women, if you just look at the numbers of adults in America, they make up about 35% of the adults in America. Because not all the adults in America vote. These are not a majority, okay? The billionaires use bots online to make it seem like there's more of them than it is. Where they do exist in rural America, in the most unhealthy towns, the most impoverished towns, the states with the highest murder rates, the states who take the most money from the federal government, is where these people live. They're so poorly educated and so reliant on their social structures that are built around corrupted evangelical Christianity that they get brainwashed into this herd mentality. They're raised with deep-seated insecurity, and if they go against their social group, they're ostracized, they're ridiculed, they're bullied, they're picked on, and most of them just aren't strong enough to take it. They can't look at, their family members who believe in hate and say, you know what? I'm strong enough to love my neighbor. I'm strong enough to treat an immigrant the way that I would want to be treated. I'm strong enough to say, you know what? I don't care what anybody else does to find love as long as they're peaceful. I care that you don't abuse women and children. But see, they don't. They don't care. They care like they care about a high school football team. They pick, they go to this school, which is the school of MAGA, and that's it. They're ride or die, like a high school football rivalry. And that's why when you debate policy with them, they can't, because they don't believe in anything other than the team. And that is beta. That's hyena, herd mentality. Like, again, I'll put it to you this way. Any of you little MAGA boys watching, now I say this and I understand this isn't going to happen because I'm one of the tiniest channels on YouTube. But does it not say something that one of the tiniest channels on YouTube is saying, I will debate, compete with, any leaders that you have? If I was a politician on the left, I have a YouTube channel where I debate my opposite followers, where if they want to challenge me to compete to some boxing, some weightlifting, some hiking, some lifting, they want to challenge my IQ, okay, let's see what's what. If I have a head-to-head IQ test, say I'm an elected politician, I have a head-to-head IQ test with a follower, okay, I can already see where this is going wrong. So say I'm a right-wing talking head like Joe Rogan. If I meet somebody who has completely opposite views of me, and we have a heads-up IQ test, and they score 30 points, 50 points higher than me, I'm gonna all of a sudden be like, maybe I need to listen a little more closely to what they're saying. These people would never do that. They're so insecure that if they lost an IQ test or a debate to someone, they can't take it. That's why you have, the people that they debate are like college freshmen with their heads somewhere else going between classes. They set up a table on campus and they have earpieces in their ear with producers giving them talking points and facts, and they go after these college freshmen. None of your leaders want anything to do with real men, okay? And that should tell you you're electing betas. Who serves betas? They're not even on the board. Again, the last I'm going to say about this for right now, this is all a myth. It's not true. It's pseudoscience. It's BS. They don't even understand what they're talking about, but they really believe it. Is it cringe? Yes, it's so cringe. But they really believe it. And by their own definitions, they're below betas. Okay? And I'm here to tell you, if that's you, you don't have to be that. Grow a spine. Stand up for the golden rule. Treat immigrants the way you would want to be treated. Treat women the way you would want to be treated. Treat people of other beliefs the way you would want to be treated. Be independent in that way. Be confident enough in what's right to look at the people you're afraid of in your social circle, who you're just these MAGA people, I'm talking to you right now. You have people in your life where if you are simply a good person, they will get mad at you. They will bully you. They will say whatever to you. They'll cut you off for money. Whatever it is. You're scared of them? Yes. That's why you're MAGA. All the way up to Donald Trump, okay? I'm talking to you right now. You need to have the backbone to look at whoever that is and be like, you know what? I've decided I'm going to be a good person. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as I will never identify with people who unite to protect PDFs. That's all that you need to say. That's all the backbone you need to have. That's all the courage you need to have. And guess what? If you have even that much, you will never be this. And you never fall for all of this cringe BS. Okay? But again, and this really is, I'm going to find something else to put on here. And then we're going to talk about, let's see. All right, I like this lady. This lady is a historian. She's a doctor. She's a PhD.
I want to start in a different place than you asked about.
Because I like watching these women.
I want to start in a different place than.
Because it's good to have the female point of view. I watch, all of the men who do. I watch conservative and liberal on here, but MAGA men have been so triggered by me posting videos of women that I'm just going to keep doing it, because the reason that these people get triggered is because a hit dog hollers. They feel that this applies to them. They know that they have submitted to protecting PDFs and they hate it, but they don't know what to do about it. And one of the reactions they have is to lash out. And these people are taught that confident women are a threat to them, which blows my mind. That's crazy. Nobody who's ever been successful in romance feels that way. Okay, so you immediately know if a man is triggered by a strong woman, that man, there's a 99% chance they're an incel. Okay, Donald Trump is an incel, Elon Musk is an incel. If you have to pay for it, you're an incel. And those are the people, hit dog hollers, that when they see a strong woman, man, because of what these people have done to their minds, it breaks them. And it shouldn't, okay? I'm here eventually over the long term, hopefully, to show some young men, which I have done in my personal life. I have rehabilitated MAGA men, okay? The reason that I do this under a pen name, under a pseudonym, is because I was doing this under my real name, and these little demons came after my family, okay? And so it is what it is. That being said, you don't have to know my DMV information to meet up with me and go on a hike in Boulder, to meet up with me at a gym in Boulder, to video call into the show and debate. You know, we don't have to have DMV information to do that. So, you want to disagree with any of this, you can keep it to policy in the comments, and we can go back and forth all day. If you make it personal, if you attack women, if you attack race, if you attack me for something other than my beliefs, then I'm just going to delete your comment. If you want to attack any of that and put your face on it, if you want to take your hood off and you want a video call, you can say whatever you want to my face. Anything. But you got to say it to my face. And I had one of these little MAGA trolls comment on a post earlier and say, controlling speech is very beta, talking about me making rules for the channel. And so I just want to say very clearly to you, young man or old man, whoever you are out there, this is my house, okay? And I can't come in your house and tell your kids whatever I want to, right? I can't come in your house and dump trash everywhere and then leave, right? So you can't do that in my house. But when you say controlling speech is beta, what would be insecure, weak, and submissive about that is if I was afraid of what you have to say. No, 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 no. I'm not afraid of what you have to say. I want to look you in the eye while you say it. I want to see what you look like and what you're about. So if you want to get personal, I get to get personal with you. Okay? So it's not insecure, weak, or submissive. It's like, you want to fight? We're going to fight fair. You're not going to come in my house and make a mess while I'm asleep. Okay? And say things you would never say to my face. That's not going to happen. Not in my house. You can say it to my face. I'll set up the time. You simply say, blah, 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 this is what I've got to say, and I'm ready to video debate you. I will leave your comment up. I will set up the time. I'll promote it. I'll be there. You say you want to meet up in Boulder and debate face-to-face. Tell me what you think face-to-face. Work out face-to-face. I'm there, okay? That's all I can say. So am I trying to control your speech or how you express yourself? No. But you can't come in my house and make a mess, and you don't get to take shots at me from the dark that you won't say to my face. Okay? I know that some of you have been brainwashed to think that you can just say anything and there won't be any consequences. But guess what? I make the rules over here. You can say what you want over here, but you got to look me in the eyes, and I get to see you, and then we get equal time. So you break me down, go ahead, tell me what I am, tell me who I am. I would prefer we talk policies, but then I get to tell you who you are, okay? You don't get to be an anonymous screen name with no YouTube channel and nobody knows who you are talking about you're this. We don't believe you. We do not believe you, okay? If you want to talk about policies, well then we get to see how your brain works, then we get to see how your heart works. Then we get to see what you really stand for as a man, as a woman, okay? It's always hurt men. It's never women. The women in this are embarrassed. They're Stepford, brainwashed, you know, the Handmaid's Tale type girls. They're so insecure. They're so broken. They got terrible mommy and daddy issues. You know, I feel sorry for the women in this. Like, they're not real human beings, okay? And if one of them wants to debate me and go back and forth with that, I love it. That would be great. I'll tell you, I'll go into detail on that. But the men who get triggered by me saying they're a party that protects PDFs and real men would never do that, therefore by your own cringe, mythological based ideology that you love to tell everybody about, not only are you not alpha, your leaders are beta. You serve betas. Your leaders are beneath me and most normal men that I know, in the sense that they couldn't debate us, they couldn't compete in an IQ test, any kind of test you want to. How do you want to test intelligence? Your leaders can't compete with us normal nobodies, okay? But most of us have been quiet for a long time because this is cringe, man. Having to talk about this is cringe. But again, people come in your neighborhood, they make a mess, they do it every single day. What are you going to do about it? You're just going to let them keep spreading trash and garbage in your community? You're going to let them pick on like innocent kids on the way to school, basically, and not do anything? by your own definition, that is what a beta or a sub-beta would do. But a real man would never stand for that. Okay? And a lot of what I'm saying are real men, people who are strong in service to universal values, people who are confident in a way of saying, I'm not below you, but I'm not above you. I'm not above you, but I'm not below you. Okay? People who are confident in that way, people who are independent and responsible, would never stand idly by, even if they have a tiny YouTube channel, even if they have no channel, even if they feel like, I have friends who basically we have the same ideology. You know, what I'm saying, they believe very similar. They're tired of all of this. But I know some of them are in positions where their boss is this and they're supporting kids, okay? So if your boss is this and sees your social media feed and you've got kids to feed, what are you going to do to combat this? Okay? And that's just one scenario. You guys know there's many different scenarios that people who oppose all of this can't be out in public having a YouTube channel like this to clean it up. But I would just challenge you and speak to you out there who know that what I'm saying is true, who believe in the golden rule, who believe in integrity, to do what you can, okay? We all have different abilities, we all have different outlets, we all have different platforms, we all have different ways to work in the community. Do what you can do. And in your own life, never stop laughing at them because they're a joke. They're 33% of the country. Okay, they have bots online to make you think that there's more of them. They gerrymander. You know, you need to know what the word gerrymander means. Gerrymander. You need to know what gerrymandering means because that's the only way they win. They are outnumbered. You saw it at the No Kings rally, the largest protests in United States history. You've never seen anything like that at a MAGA rally, ever, never. Okay, and that should show you these people are winning by deception, the same way the Wizard of Oz was like, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. They have this big show, this big fake facade. And inside they're built on cringe mythology, exploiting hurt, greedy, fearful young men, and roping them into a cult that serves, by their own definition, which is mythological, their cult serves beta males. Okay, their leaders are betas. Lindsey Graham, Mike Johnson, Donald Trump, Elon Musk, incel beta males who will never stand up to, again, this is a fake term, this is fake science, but compared to all y'all's leader, I'm this. Okay, you guys are below them, serving them, protecting PDFs, those of you who subscribe to this ideology. Real men would never do that. Now, to trigger, you know, some of these men who are very, not to trigger, I wouldn't, this lady is not triggering. You're going to hear she's a professor, okay? But it's wild that women simply speaking the truth triggers the people who serve the beta male leaders of MAGA. Man, they have a strong reaction to hearing a woman tell them the truth. And I'm here for it, so let's go. Let's finish. We got one more set of rows, deadlifts, presses, and squats. Then we'll have done 3 of everything for the day, like we try to do every day. Let's get in this work, watch Heather Cox Richardson, and then I will see you guys again tomorrow because we do this every day at 1:11 Mountain Time. We're going to see how many days over the next year we can show up for this everyday full body workout and document the process. In the meantime, we're cleaning up our community from the mess, you know, that these little demons have spread around. I hope you're having a great day. I hope you're doing whatever you can to counteract this in your community. I hope you're doing whatever you can to keep your own daily growth progressing each day.
You asked about because so much is coming at us all the time, it's really hard to figure out what's going on and to be able to take a breath and figure things out. So let me start with something I've talked about a lot here, and that's the concept of power, and how power in the United States government is not necessarily rooted in the places that the Constitution laid out for it to be rooted. That is, power tends to flow, tends to flow places, and tends to flow into vacuums. So one of the things, if you remember, I talked about before Trump came in was where power was going to reside during his administration, because you had all those different factions that Trump had promised different things to, and that it was not going to be possible to make them all happy. And it was pretty clear that Trump himself was not in great mental health going into his administration. Remember him standing on that stage swaying for however many minutes that was? So it was not clear to me who was going to hold the power. But what I hoped would happen was that the Senate Republicans would pick up the power sloshing around Washington. Because my model came from the 1920s. We had a similar situation in the 1920s of power sloshing around loose. And what I meant by that is when Warren G. Harding is elected in 1920. He's actually elected by a landslide. Most people forget Harding now. He wasn't around for very long. But when he becomes president and when the Republicans take control of the House and the Senate in 1920, they don't really know what to do with that power, because the Republicans who are currently in the House and the Senate in 1921, when he took office and when they took office, had spent the last 8 years anyway, and more than that, fighting back against the Democrats and against the idea of progressive legislation. So once they were in power, they didn't know what to do with themselves, because all they were really good at was saying no. Once they were in power, they didn't know what to do. And we're looking at something very similar now, I think, where the Republicans have spent a long time saying no. Now they've caught the car and they don't really know what to do. So what has happened is that power, as in the 1920s, flowed to cabinet members, Herbert Hoover and Andrew Mellon at the head of Commerce and Treasury, respectively. In our era, power appears in the Trump administration not to have flowed to the Senate Republicans, where I had hoped it would go. That is, they would take control of the prerogatives of the Senate and they would push back against illegalities in the Trump administration. But no, they have simply rolled over and played dead in a truly astonishing way. But power seems to have flowed to unelected officials in the Trump administration. And the people that I am thinking of are people like billionaire Elon Musk, who had control of something called the Department of Government Efficiency, that slashed through grants, things like USAID, the U.S. Agency for International Development, fired a whole bunch of employees, and then sort of got out of Dodge after collecting as much information on individual Americans as could be garnered from the different public files in the different government agencies. And then after Elon Musk, power seems to be flowing toward, or have flowed toward, Russell Vought, who's the director of the Office of Management and Budget, who was working with Musk to slash through the government, and to Stephen Miller, who is the Deputy White House Chief of Staff. Again, these are neither one of them even Senate confirmed. These are political appointees. And also, I think, to Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Now, the problem with that power having flowed to these unelected people is that there is no accountability for what they are doing. And they are acting according to their ideologies. So Russell Vought is a Christian nationalist who was a chief author of Project 2025 and who wants to destroy the modern American state because he believes that since the presidency of Woodrow Wilson in the 19-teens, that the government has focused too much on regulatory bodies that have taken away power from the executive, the president, and that all of those have to be destroyed. So he's the one out there saying he's going to slash through even more employment, and he's taking congressionally appointed funds and impounding them, which is illegal both by the nature of what the executive branch is supposed to do versus the legislative branch, which makes the laws and appropriates money, and also by the 1974 Impoundment Act. He is out there deliberately trying to destroy the modern government because he believes that we are in what he calls a post-constitutional moment. That is, that the Constitution, in his mind, has been destroyed since the 19-teens, more than 100 years ago, and we must get back to that earlier period. And once we have done that, he wants to put in place a strong executive and a government based in Christianity, to create a sort of very strong executive in a theocracy. So he's got that ideology, and that's why he wants to slash through the modern government. But then you have Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller is slightly different. He also has an ideology. He is a white nationalist who wants to get rid of people of color in the United States and to create what he believes will be a pure society, because he appears to adhere to the idea that the arrival of immigrants into the United States is going to destroy what makes America America. There's a whole bunch of theory about this. It's completely ahistorical, but this seems to be what he is doubling down on. And then there is Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the Secretary of Health and Human Services, and he has his own ideology, which is bound up in a lot of stuff. He doesn't actually appear to believe in germ theory as the cause of the diseases and illnesses that people have. Sorry, diseases and illnesses are the same thing. That in fact what has happened, he thinks, is that a focus on germ theory has empowered the pharmaceutical industry, which is now trying to sell us all on things like vaccines that he is not a doctor or a scientist, he thinks we don't need. So here's the problem with these ideologies that are specific to these people who seem to be holding power. And that is, they're really unpopular. I mean, aside from whether you agree with them or not, in a democracy, the people who are in power in our government are supposed to try to do what the majority of people want. But in fact, what Vogt and Miller and Kennedy are doing are extraordinarily unpopular. So Vogt's slashing through of the federal government and the services it provides to the American people are deeply unpopular, but they are part of his ideology. And similarly, Miller's attacks on what during the campaign Trump said would be the worst of the worst, the criminal element of people who were undocumented in the United States, has turned into a crusade against people with brown skin. And that, a very extensive one, and that those attacks and the detentions and the deportations or rendering of people to third countries is really shocking a lot of people who thought that Trump
I know
was
why
simply
these boys
going
don't
to
want
get
to come
rid
and
of what
debate
they
live.
thought were going to be rapists and murderers. Instead,
I know why they
their
don't want to
children are being
debate me
zip-tied,
live.
There are U.S. citizens being held.
Nobody's
stepping
fooled,
over
man.
The line of what
Nobody buys into
immigration
the
customs
delusion, not even
enforcement
other
and Border
people in your
Patrol
cult.
should be doing is really
We all know what
horrifying
the score
a lot of
is.
people, and you can see it in the polls where Trump is deeply, deeply underwater on
Be a man.
immigration as well.
Stand up for
as
what's right.
on the economy. Which
Stop
I probably won't
serving
talk about
evil.
much today. But
Stop
then you
being
also
afraid of
have
evil
the
men.
attacks on public health under
Stop cowering.
Kennedy.
to
And
bullies.
those have taken the form of cuts to the National Institutes of Health.
Stop listening to
cuts
idiots.
to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
Stop putting your
cuts
faith
to
in weak men.
research into cancer research, for example, things that most Americans really like and that are part of our established, really world-class medical system that Kennedy believes are not actually answering the needs of the American public. And his attacks have been on American public health have been so egregious that today 6 former surgeons general from Republican and Democratic administrations said we just have to say something. He is destroying public health. So what do you got here? You've got this power sloshing around, getting picked up by these people who are not accountable and who are operating based on ideologies that are enormously unpopular. And where is that going? Well, first of all, you're seeing Trump is seemingly checked out.
Even MAGA people don't even really like MAGA people.
Becoming president against
That's why MAGA people get so triggered
by
liberals calling them out.
I don't think he's ever going to get the third.
Because they just want to
But
do
he's
the
really not able to
fucked up
function.
shit with
You
their
can see
cult,
this in his
but then
press
try to be
conferences.
friends with the
He's
cool
largely
kids.
incoherent.
We're the cool kids.
But not only is he
They hate
unpopular,
each other.
he's unpopular in
They
part
hate
because
themselves.
the economy is tanking.
They don't make
But
the connection.
also because we now have this issue of the Epstein files out there. And those Epstein files continue to be extraordinarily important and extraordinarily unsettling for the administration. How do you know that? You know it in part because the House Speaker, Mike Johnson, who's a Republican from Louisiana, is refusing to swear in the newly elected, not so newly elected actually, it's been more than 2 weeks or 2 weeks today, elected representative from Arizona, Grijalba, who will be the
While
one
he
making
defends
signature
PDFs.
on the discharge petition that will force the House of Representatives to take a vote on whether or not to demand the release of the Epstein
While the
files.
least
Now, we
masculine
don't
men in
know
the
how
world
final vote would go,
defend
but
PDFs.
right now it looks like there will be enough votes to make that release happen. And you can tell that they're nervous about this because they're not swearing her in. They're finding all sorts of reasons not to swear her in. That is going to happen eventually, but they would not be avoiding it if they thought that the release of the Epstein files wouldn't be a problem. And you also
Exactly.
know it because today Pam Bondi was on Capitol Hill testifying in front
They're
of
protecting
senators,
PDFs.
and when asked by, I believe it was Senator
And the weakest men in
Whitehouse
the world
of
support
Rhode
that.
Island, about
A
whether
real man would
she'd
never
seen the Epstein files,
protect the
whether
Epstein
there are
files, ever.
photographs of Donald Trump
A
in
real man would
Congress
never.
and, positions. She did not say no. I mean, that would have been a really, really easy no. Instead, she attacked White House repeatedly. And in fact, she attacked everybody on the, that was her MO, was just to attack. But in that case, if you knew that your principal, your boss, your leader, was not implicated, you know, wouldn't you hire a skywriter and say, absolutely not, he is not in those files? Instead, she didn't do that. She went on the aggressive, which is, or on offense, was really revealing. It was probably the most revealing thing that she did in that hearing, with one possible exception.
I'll be right back.
All right.
I'll be right back.
So, if you have this situation where you have these people putting into place policies that are deeply unpopular, Trump's popularity is really in really dire straits. He's underwater, meaning more people disapprove than approve of virtually everything he's doing, and including on the shutdown. 78% of Americans do want what the Democrats want, which is the extension of the premium tax credits to make sure that the Affordable Care Act markets don't collapse, which, you know, the Republicans, again, that's part of what Vote wants. He has said that he wants to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. That's something that the Republicans have really pushed for a long time, but that's really, really unpopular. So if that's the case, what happens? Well, I think you can see what is happening in the White House with Certainly Russell Vogt appears to be continuing to slash everything he can, but Stephen Miller appears to be the person calling the shots for the use of the military domestically and also against the Venezuelan boats in the Caribbean, 4 of them now, with the death of at least 17 people, which the New York City Bar Association yesterday came out and called murder. And he seems to me to be increasingly unhappy, concerned about the pushback that the administration is getting, because the administration, as I say, is extraordinarily unpopular. So he has become the face of the administration out there talking about how those people who are standing up against Trump and against the policies of the administration are committing insurrection. Now, interestingly enough, over the weekend, when the administration was making noises about sending federalized National Guard troops into, or either federalizing the National Guard troops in Oregon or sending federalized National Guard, no, I'm sorry, let me put it differently. They were going to federalize National Guard troops in Oregon, and Oregon lawyers, both at the state and the city level, tried to get a restraining order against that happening, or injunction against that happening. The person who heard the case was a Trump appointee. She was is a judge named Immergut, last name Immergut, who was appointed by Trump. And she said, she took a look at what was actually happening on the ground in Portland, Oregon, and said, there's no problem here. There's really, literally, the government says you need to have troops there because last July someone threw rocks at law enforcement officers. But the law enforcement officers in Portland took care of that, so we don't. You have no excuse for federalizing the National Guard troops in Portland. So within hours, the administration tried to federalize California National Guard troops and send them in. So at that point, the governor of California and Portland, Oregon, and the state of Oregon all got together and said, hey, wait a minute, let's get back here, you can't do this. And once again, she said, no, you can't. And you're not allowed to send in anybody for 14 days while we hash this all out. Well, Stephen Miller got out in front of the cameras and called what she, a Trump appointee, said legal insurrection. Now, one of the things that you've seen for the last several days is the repeated use of the word insurrection and of reporters asking Trump if he is going to invoke the Insurrection Act. And I'm really interested in that because a number of people have written to me and said, Trump says he's talking about the Insurrection Act. And that may be the case. I confess I've been doing a lot of other stuff, so I haven't watched every single thing Trump has said lately. He hasn't been out there all that much. But what I'm hearing is reporters asking him about it and him answering. Not him saying, I'm going to do this, but him answering in that sort of, oh, no, I'll look into it kind of way he's been doing, which makes me wonder, who is asking? Like, why are they asking? Like, are they being set up to ask? Because it's pretty clear that Trump really doesn't know if he's afoot or horseback. So the more he hears from the news, the more he sees in these videos that the Department of Homeland Security is making. And by the way, the Department of Homeland Security has been running a white nationalist account on social media, which is very clearly white nationalist. So, and Kristi Noem appears to be working pretty closely with Stephen Miller. Kristi Noem is the Secretary of Homeland Security. So he's talking a lot about the Insurrection Act. Well, why? One of the things that Miller has tried to set up is the idea that anybody who disagrees with anything the Trump administration is doing is fighting against the government, is an insurrectionist against the government, especially in places like Chicago and Portland, where, again, in Portland, every city has crime. For the record, I live in the country. The country has crime too. Nobody ever pays a lot of attention to rural crime because somehow, I don't know, I guess it's got this long-standing idea that there's a crime here. But believe me, there's plenty of crime here. Probably statistically, in terms of numbers, higher than in cities. I think that's right, actually. that was a rabbit hole I didn't mean to go down. But certainly there's crime everywhere, but the idea that there is a war zone or war-ravaged Portland, as Trump has called it, is simply a fantasy. I mean, that's just simply not the case. And I'm going to come back to that in a minute. And so why would anybody be trying to argue that we need to send in troops to places where there's literally no need for them? And one of the things that is important to hold in mind in this moment is that anybody who studies war strategy will tell you that you do not want to invade. If you invade territory, you're going to create local hostility. And you can see.
All right, we can get back to this tomorrow. We're going to wrap up for today. So, just to recap, we're showing up every day to do this full body workout because we're training for something. I'm not talking about exactly what it is yet, but anyway, I'm documenting the process. I'm trying to see how many days over the next 365 I can show up, do this full body workout every day, get this work in, document it. In the meantime, because these people are spreading garbage, toxicity, ideological litter in our communities, some of us have to do what we can to clean it up, right? Like, we can't stand idly by while people dump trash in our communities. And what we want to talk about today is how do these people defend protecting PDFs? Okay, because the government is shut down because they are protecting PDFs. They do not want to release the EPSTEIN files. And they don't want us talking about it. And the weak, broken, insecure, misguided young men, old men who defend all of this are protecting these files from coming out. Okay? And how does this happen? Because these people told you that they were anti-PDF. They screamed that for years. Remember how they told us all that they were anti-PDFs? And now they've shut down the government to defend PDFs. So we see they're dishonest, and we ask why. How could these people who made so much noise about this become defenders of blocking the Epstein files from being released? Okay? We talked about it on the show, but we're just going to recap it for the end here. These men, young men, broken men, weak men, dishonest men, spineless men, cowardly men, are slaves to their ideology. They're spineless, weak, fearful simps. They're dishonest, they don't have integrity, and many of them are sociopaths. They're brainwashed, which goes into being slave to their ideology. They're short-sighted. And despite the fact that many of them claim to be evangelical Christians, if you examine their beliefs based on what they actually say, we see that they're actually nihilists. You can't defend this if you really believe in some kind of karma or a God or a universal force of justice. You really have to be a nihilist to protect PDFs like that's not going to come back on you in any type of way. Okay? I believe in karma. I believe that if you do evil, it's going to come back on you. And these people apparently do not believe in anything like that, despite the fact of telling everybody that they're Christian, when, if you've ever read the Bible, these people act the exact opposite of the way that Christ is portrayed in the Bible and the words that are attributed to Christ in the Bible. Let's set aside that they have a religion named around a brown-skinned immigrant. Okay, these people follow a religion named after a brown-skinned immigrant. So, how do people become all of this? This fear is a really big part of it, okay? A lot of these people don't want to be evil, but they go along with the herd. They go along with herd mentality because they're afraid to stand up, to have a spine to their peer group or their family or their church or their workplace. You know, it's usually not workers so much as it is a boss somewhere up the chain who's MAGA. Okay? Sometimes it manifests in, I can have the tiniest channel on YouTube, and these videos are targeting the young men, okay, because these people are spreading garbage in our community. Part of cleaning it up is targeting the same young men they're targeting and saying, hey, don't be all this. Be like this. You know, do work. Respect the golden rule. I could write that on there, but I don't want the beautiful concepts like the golden rule to go anywhere near this name. We'll have to clear the board and write something else. Because these people are the opposite of the golden rule. And they're weak. They're afraid. You know, they won't come on this channel and debate me. They will not work out with me. They will not... they want to insult my intelligence, but it's like, okay, well then how do we measure... Okay, we got an anonymous commenter on YouTube saying that I'm an idiot. How do we compete as men and see who's who? Don't you want to know the truth? If you're calling me an idiot, why should you be afraid to compete against me? It doesn't make any sense. It does when you know the dishonesty, no integrity, sociopath part. Okay? These people don't want you to talk about their beliefs. They don't want you to point out that they're defending PDFs. And they don't want to admit that it makes them all of this right here. And part of cleaning up our society, part of cleaning up the litter, part of cleaning up the trash is showing young men these words and saying, hey young men, just look for yourself. Look for yourself. We've got real men who are simply, I'm not selling you anything. I will never have any advertisers or sponsors on this channel ever. Okay, everything I do is for free. I'm showing up to help clean up my community and document real work. Okay? Look at what these people are doing in society. And there's a lot of people, young men, I'm telling you, that these people make up about 1/3 of society. There are not as many of them as they want you to think there are. Go ask an AI, go ask Google, have it break down, say, what percentage of total United States society can we actually attribute to MAGA? Ask that any way you want to. Go do the research. It's about 1/3 of society, okay? So they are outnumbered. They win by gerrymandering. And this is just a word for cheating. But you need, it's more than that. They redraw political lines in a way that allows them to cheat. That's the shortest way that I could say it for you. But you need to understand what gerrymandering is, because that is the only way that 1/3 of the country takes over the executive branch of our federal government. They're not popular, as you saw from the No Kings protest. They're very unpopular, but they use illusion, just like the Wizard of Oz. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. They use online bots, they have trolls, they use insane amounts of money to create a TV show like The Apprentice to make you think that they're powerful, that they're popular, that they're manly, that they're smart. And they're none of the above, okay? Come debate me live, come show up, let everybody see who's who, and let's clean up this trash that they've spread throughout society. Let's keep young men from becoming this because they're grifted by their fear and hate. Okay, young men who don't have a good male role model or who have a unsatisfactory or unfit father figure are grifted by these people, and they end up supporting PDFs and they don't even know what they're doing, because last year they were telling us all that they were the anti-PDF party. And this year they're shutting down the government to protect PDFs. This is a high school sports rivalry to them. Policies don't actually matter. They parrot talking points that they hear from their media. They can't stand up and talk to you about what they think because they're ashamed of what they think, and they don't even know what they think. They listen and they repeat. They call and response, okay? That's why they're not going to come on here and debate me. They're not going to show their face. They sling mud from the shadows, and we have to clean it up. And not only do we have to clean it up, we have to deal with the fact that we have these vandals, these demons, polluting society on a daily basis, and we have to clean it up on a daily basis, and eventually we have to do something about it, okay? And that's what we're here to do. Talking about it is the first step, and if we're efficient, we could get in some work while we clean up our community. So all that being said, y'all, listen, this is coming from a place of love, okay? I love everybody enough to tell the truth. And men, old men, young men who are like this right now, you can change, okay? And we can be brothers again. I will be brothers with any man who respects the golden rule, okay? But if you stomp on it, we are not brothers. You don't have to stay this way. You do not have to support PDFs. You do not have to perform for a father that taught you the wrong way, or a boss, who threatens you for being a good person, or a friend who you think is going to bully you or make life hard for you if you simply stand up for what's right and good people. So be a man, grow a backbone, respect the golden rule, turn away from this. Let's talk about it. Let's form a brotherhood around men who would never support a PDF and mean it and aren't going to change next year. Because that's who y'all said you were, and now we see it's a joke like everything else. This cult spreads. And these people are angry. They're perpetually rage-fueled, okay? I want to talk to them. I want to debate them. I want them to come on the show, but they're afraid. And this fear drives everything. Scared people are dangerous. A scared dog will bite you. And their teeth are still sharp. Part of keeping my DMV information out of this channel is because these people have targeted my family before. So we can show our faces without giving our DMV information away. You could call in by phone. You can type as long as you keep it to policy. I'm not going to let people type from anonymous accounts telling me how big and bad they are, because we don't believe you. We don't believe you unless we can see you. If you want to be anonymous in the chat and talk policy, that's fine, because then we can see your mind and your heart and how your mind and heart work and why you believe the things that you believe. And that's fine. Anything goes. You can disagree with me on policy. I would never, censor that in any way. But to these little MAGA boys who want to come and make it personal while I'm sleeping, type crazy things, and then not show their faces and not show up, and they don't want to talk policy and they don't want to debate, I'm just here to say, like, we don't believe you, dog. You don't got the answer, Sway. Come on the show. Let's see who you are. Let's debate. Let's hear your point of view. But I'm telling you, anybody who supports this is fearful in their life. And it's different to be fearful of immigrants when we all come from immigrants. It's different to be fearful of gay people when gay people have been here since the beginning of time. It's different to be fearful of that than it is to be fearful of poison, to be fearful of cancer. Okay, so real men discern. We don't have bullet points that can be parroted easily by children. We have nuanced, deep, multi-level conversations, and we hold complex concepts in our head, even simply complex, such as, hey, what did your family have to do to become American citizens? Yeah, I'm asking you, whoever is watching, what did your family have to do to become U.S. citizens? Mine had to sign a piece of paper, okay? How am I not a hypocrite if I want other people to do more than what my family had to do? Okay, so these are complex. It's not immigration bad, born here good. What did any of you do to deserve to be born here that somebody else's family did wrong to be born wherever they're coming from? You think you did something before you were born to deserve being born here? That's crazy. It's hypocritical. It's weak. It's dishonest. It's fearful. It's sociopathy. Sociopathy is refusing to, or the inability to put yourself in somebody else's shoes. It's the opposite of empathy. Alright, I think I've talked about this enough for today. I have a whole lot more to go through in this subject because they've spread a lot of garbage. There's a lot of garbage to clean up. It's going to take a long time, and we're here to do it. But again, it's from love. If you love somebody, if you love everybody, that doesn't mean you ignore somebody bullying somebody else. Being a loving person means you stop the bullying. You intervene on behalf of justice. Okay, that's what love is. Love is seeing somebody getting stepped on by a more powerful, richer person, being driven into the ground and intervening and stopping that behavior. Okay, love is not, let me just not talk about evil. A doctor loves their work and their patient and humanity, so they remove cancer. A gardener loves their garden and the people it feeds, so they remove toxic weeds. Love is not passive, and love does not abide bullies and toxicity and poison. Love says, man, we got a big mess to clean up. I guess we better put our big boy pants on and get to work. That's what we're doing here every day. All right, y'all. It's been a long one. We got in another 3 sets today of everything. We'll see you again tomorrow. It's love and liberty. As always, peace.